Got it. Right. Sorry about that. I couldn't unmute or get my camera on, but I think we're all there. Councillor Horn was there, so I imagine she'll be back any second. So I will open the meeting and welcome everyone to this meeting of council. This meeting will be live streamed and recorded, and the voices and images of those participating in the meeting may be captured as part of this recording. Indigo Shire Council acknowledges the original custodians of the land, which now comprises the municipality of Indigo Shire. We pay respect to their elders past and present, celebrate and respect their continuing culture, and acknowledge the memory of their ancestors. As councillors, we have all taken an oath to carry out our duties in the best interest of the people of Indigo Shire and to do this in a fair and impartial manner. We're all committed to exercising the council's powers and functions to the best of our skills and judgment. Do I have any apologies and leave of absence? No. Declarations of conflict of interest? No. Community and council achievements. I would like to just again congratulate our community for having reached an 84% double vaccination rate in record time. We didn't have the vaccinations rolled out as quickly as Melbourne, and we've done a really, really great job here. So thank you to everyone that rolled up their sleeve, and thank you to the health workers, both the GPs, the pharmacists and the state-run hubs, who all have done a fantastic job in making sure that we're a safe, vaccinated community. Any other council achievements? Councillor Gaffney, or community achievements, sorry.
This is a council achievement. I'd just like to mention that that Indigo Shire Council obtained a federal government grant for $5.113 million for a walking, cycling loop of the wineries in Rutherglen. They've been looking forward to it, and I'm sure it'll be of huge economic benefit to not just Rutherglen, but Indigo Shire in general.
Yes, fantastic outcome. And again, thank you to everyone involved, the staff, the federal government through the Building Better Regions Fund, who have delivered this grant, and also the community groups that were involved in advocating for it. So it's a wonderful achievement for our Shire. Any other council and community achievements? Okay. We have no condolence motions tonight. Do I have confirmation of the previous minutes? The recommendation is that the minutes of the council meeting held on the 28th of September, as published on council's website, be confirmed. Do I have someone to move that? Councillor Shepherd, do I have a seconder? Councillor Price, all those in favour? Carried, thank you. Any business arising from the previous minutes? Okay, no. Item 8.1 is the suspension of standing orders regarding open forum. So at this stage, my understanding is, and I'll ask Jane still, do we have any public forum questions? Okay, well, we won't worry about suspending standing orders then, and we'll move on to item 9, petitions. We do have a petition tonight for the off-leash dog walking from Beechworth issue. The recommendation is that the petition be considered as part of the report on the proposed off-leash dog walking Beechworth Wallace Park option to come to council in due course. Do I have someone to move that? I have Councillor Horn and seconded Councillor Shepherd. Councillor Horn, do you wish to say anything about this? Okay, Councillor Shepherd.
Oh, just that I think petitions are a great way of letting us know how the community feels. So thank you very much for putting this petition in, and it'll be a great addition to the submissions when we are looking at this whole issue. So thank you, and I hope you're happy with it being seen as a submission.
Thank you. And I will just say we had 241 signatures on this submission, so a significant number of people have signed it. And it's asking that we confirm the use of Barmutha Park as a designated off-leash dog walking area, confirm that the use will continue regardless of whether we develop any other off-leash areas, and make publicly available as safety concerns that have been raised. I won't go through all the wording, but that's the gist of it. Yeah, Councillor Price.
I just had a question. Does a petition get considered as 241 submissions, or is it considered to be one submission to the process?
Trevor, would you like to, sorry, CEO Areno, would you like to clarify that? Good question.
I think technically they class it as one submission, but really from a council point of view, you give that weighting.
Yeah.
You recognise that there's this many were received in individual letters and 240 people spoke this way. So it doesn't really matter how you count it, but yeah, it's treated as one submission, but you'll give weighting based on how many lines are in that petition and how many of them are in the region and how many relate to the area. Sometimes people have names on them that are outside the region, but you'll just give that weighting as well.
Yeah, and just important, just in case any of them are watching, just for that to be noted as well.
Yeah, thank you. And there have been lots of other submissions, and we've done a lot of engagement on this. And we met with the golf club last week, so they're already raising issues as well. So it's certainly had a huge amount of interest in the Beechworth community. So I will put the motion that this petition be considered as part of the report on the proposal, moved by Councillor Horn, seconded by Councillor Shepherd. Anyone else wish to speak to this? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Okay, so planning and corporate services, we have 10.1 quarter one finance report, and the recommendation is that council accepts the quarter one year to date September 2021 finance report. Do I have someone to move that? Councillor Gaffney. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Croucher. Councillor Gaffney, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Just very briefly, Madam Mayor, is that we're very pleased that it's come in favourable to budget.
Terrific. Yep. Councillor Croucher, you wish to add anything?
Yeah, I've just got a little statement, another financial report where the financial position is still favourable to budget, despite some variances seen in the individual lines and service areas.
There you go. How
about that?
You're in total agreement. All right. Anyone else wish to speak to this motion? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Great. Thanks, councillors. Item 10.2 is the budget carry forward and adjustments for 2020-2021 budget. The recommendation is that council adopts the 2020-21, sorry, I'm finding it hard to say, re-budget and other budget adjustments as detailed in the report and the attachment. And the adjustments are outlined there. So do I have someone to move this? I have Councillor Gaffney. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Croucher again. Okay, Councillor Gaffney.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. The situation is that the Local Government Act 2020 requires council to report financial information quarterly. The Indigo Shire is doing that monthly. The only one that I'd like to mention is some of us have had contact from the Beechworth Lions, and I'd like to say that $26,900 is to be spent this financial as carryover money from the last financial year.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Croucher, do you wish to add anything as a second?
Oh, no, I just, the adoption of this recommendation will allow for the completion of projects already commenced, as well as continuing to deliver transparency and accountability to our constituents. Fully agree.
All right, great. Anyone else wish to speak to this? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. Okay, item 10.3, planning permit application PP 200124 for 680 Stanley Road, Stanley. The recommendation is that council refuses the planning application for the use and development of a second dwelling at 680 Stanley Road, Stanley on the following grounds, and there are a number outlined there, but I'll just go through them very quickly. The proposal is inconsistent for state planning policy, including bushfire planning, protection of agricultural land, sustainable agricultural land use, design for rural areas and rural residential development, and also inconsistent with the relevant clauses under the local planning policy, including rural areas, rural development, siting and design, rural land use policy and fire hazard. And there are other areas also that it's inconsistent with development in the farming zone and the environmental significance overlay and the bushfire overlay. There are others there as well. So I'm going to put the motion. Anyone to move this? Councillor Price, do I have a seconder? Councillor Croucher? Councillor Price, you wish to speak to the motion?
Yes, I think councillors have really done their due diligence with both of these planning applications tonight. We've really considered any possible alternatives and had lengthy discussions with the planning staff to ascertain the really strong reasons why refusal is being put forward. And I fully support that. There are a number of grounds, and I think they all make good sense. I still understand the frustration of people who are trying to accommodate themselves on their farming land in older age, but we have to stand by the strength of our planning policy, and that's what we're doing by refusing this application.
Okay, Councillor Croucher as seconder. You're on mute, Councillor.
I really fought very hard over this one. I went one way and then the other way and so forth. And I guess there was a lot of things that made me think, yeah, we should be able to support this. But in the end, it was the bottom line. It was this position is in the farming zone, and we must not allow multiple dwellings in this sort of a land. And I think that's the thing that put me to put the refusal part.
Thanks, Councillor. Anyone else wish to speak to this motion? Councillor Goldsworthy.
I have a lot of sympathy for the applicant in this case, and I'd encourage him to look at his options in regards to this refusal if it's accepted. There are other options for him in relation to dependent unit living and that sort of thing, but if it's a difficult decision, as Councillor Croucher has said, because he makes a lot of sense when he speaks about what he's been required to do, the hoops he's had to jump through, and what he's trying to achieve. But we've just got to stick with the planning scheme. And having said that, I still can't vote for the motion.
Okay, thanks, Councillor. Councillor Gaffney?
I agree with what's been said. This is a very difficult position to be in, particularly when all of Stanley is in the farming zone and he's not very far from the 60k limit into Stanley. But we have been told that if this gets up, it causes a precedent. This council, only a matter of several months ago, on a property 700 metres away, voted against a dwelling being built in the farming zone. I sympathise with him. I'd like to vote against this, but I'll support the motion as presented by the planning manager.
Thanks, Councillor. Anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Shepherd.
As everyone else has said, I think we've struggled with this one because we're very aware of the ageing in place in farming families and the importance of having people living in a farming space together. And I understand that we do have a dependent unit application that can be made, and I know how people struggle with that, but I agree with the others who've said that we are also very strongly in support of farming land and supporting farming land. So I struggle with it. There's a discussion to be had, I think, about it, because I see the benefits of having young people come back onto farming places and how do we make that happen. But at this stage, that's how our planning laws are, and I agree with the discussion that's happened here tonight.
Thanks, Councillor. Anyone else wish to speak to the motion? Okay, so I'm going to put the motion, all those in. Oh, sorry, Councillor Price, did you wish to sum up?
Just to read one of the last lines from the report, overall, it's considered that the proposal will result in a poor outcome, which is inconsistent with the objectives of the state and local planning policy framework, as well as the purpose and decision guidelines of the farming zone. environmental significance overlay, Schedule 1 and bushfire management overlay, it's on this basis that it is recommended that the application be refused, and I agree with that.
Okay, thank you. All right, so I've put the motion for refusal. All those in favour? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Against? Councillor Goldsworthy. Okay, so those in favour, just for the record, sorry, we've got to go through this again. Councillor Price, Shepherd, Horn, Croucher, Gaffney, O'Connor, and against Councillor Goldsworthy. Okay, thank you. And item 10.4, planning permit application PP 21661491 Chiltern Road, Chiltern, Rutherglen, and the recommendation is that council refuses planning application PP 21006 for the use and development of a second dwelling at 1491 Chiltern Road, Rutherglen on the following grounds: and protection of agricultural land, sustainable agricultural land use, design for rural areas, rural residential development, and so on. There is a long list there as well. I won't read them out. It's all there publicly available. Do I have someone to move this? Councillor Price, do I have a seconder? Councillor Shepherd? Councillor Price?
A similar and completely different application to the one we've just had. This, again, councillors have all done their due diligence on this one. There was a site visit conducted, and we've had many questions to ask about it. It's, again, the whole idea of a second dwelling is to support the farming practices, but the appropriate thing to apply for would be the dependent persons unit, and this is just too far removed from that proposal. Nevertheless, it still has the same principles as the one before. It's to try and support other people to return to farming land. But again, going back to our policy positions, we can't be seen to support this. It sets a precedent for what could occur into the future. And we've also planned the growth corridors in Rutherglen, and this isn't the direction that it goes. So unfortunately, on a number of fronts, this is a really strong refusal motion.
Okay, thanks, Councillor. Councillor Shepherd?
Yes, I think this one, as per the previous one and as Councillor Price has said, we would love to support younger people coming back onto the land. But this one especially is plonked right in the middle of really serious Rutherglen farming land. And we need to really support those larger agricultural industry businesses in that area, and plonking other little houses in amongst them is not going to be supported, as neither does the planning laws support it, but neither would the community, I think, support having a smaller subdivision in that space.
Okay, anyone else wish to speak to this motion? All right, I'm going to put the motion. All those in. Oh, Councillor Price, do you wish to add anything? Closing comment?
I just.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Cratcher.
Oh,
I can see you. Go.
I just found a statement in here that to emphasise what the other two councillors have said, that the policy discourages development of small lots in rural zones for residential use or other incompatible uses, and encourages consolidation of existing isolated small lots in rural zones. And I think that sets this out pretty well.
Okay, so Councillor Price, do you wish to sum up?
With much the same sentiment as the application before, this is about the protection of agricultural land, as is one of the clauses mentioned in the recommendation. And so again, it makes it a really strong refusal motion.
Thanks, Councillor. I'll put the motion. All those in favour of the refusal? And that's carried 7-all. Thank you. And I will just, I just want to make the comment that, you know, we are very sympathetic to the fact that people, particularly as they age, are wanting family members to be able to come and support them. We understand that. There is provision there within the current planning scheme to allow relocatable dwellings to be put onto a property for people to live in. And I will say there are some really lovely beautiful, actually, relocatable homes now available. So for people that are worried about that, there is an option there already to do that, and we're very willing to look at that. So just to reassure people that might be wondering how they might manage into the future and stay on their farm. Okay, 10.5, draft procurement policy. The recommendation is that Council endorses the attached draft procurement policy for public exhibition, places it on exhibition for a period of 3 weeks, and invites submissions. Do I have anyone to move that? Councillor Gaffney, do I have a seconder? Councillor Shepherd. Councillor Gaffney, you're on mute.
I'll start off with a question. The previous policy review date was the 29th of June 2021, with the review date December 2021. I noticed that this policy, the next review date is 2025. Why is it so long this time?
Director Pinkerton.
Thank you. Very good question, Councillor. The previous Local Government Act required the procurement policy to be updated each year. And the last time that we updated that was in June this year. And that was the last time that we needed to do that on the annual cycle. The new Local Government Act, the 2020 version, now requires that the procurement policy be updated once each council term. And the first time that that needed to be done was before December this year. So this one's coming back fairly smartly after the last one. And the review date is there as the outside date. Obviously, if things change or if there's a desire to update it, we'll of course bring it back in. But that review date is in accordance with the new 2020 Local Government Act.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I'd just like to mention a few things in this procurement policy.
Sure.
The first one is the cost of goods and services. Generally speaking, it is one of the most important considerations, but must be balanced against other value elements. I'd also like to mention under environmental sustainability, the formal tender process for purchases over $150,000 will include a weighting of at least 10% for environmental sustainability. We'd also like to mention local benefit. Council is committed to supporting businesses and providing benefit to the local area, particularly in the creation of new jobs or securing investment in the Shire. Formal tender processes for purchases above $150,000 will include a weighting of at least 10% for local benefit. I think all of this is very important in our procurement policy, and I support it wholeheartedly.
Thank you, Councillor. Great. Councillor Shepherd.
I'd also like to start with a question. It says that insurance isn't covered in this policy, and I'm just wondering, where is insurance covered if it's not in this policy?
I'll go to Director Pinkerton on that one.
Thank you, Councillor. I'm trying to do the short version of this answer. So as part of the changes coming out of the new Local Government Act, there's been a large number of workshops and advice from local government lawyers and the such. And so insurance is technically a contract for indemnity rather than a contract for a good or a service. So it doesn't actually fit under the definition of procurement. So for that reason, the recommendation from the specialist lawyers was that it's not captured under this. There are parts of our insurance which is about the process and the cost of getting that insurance that is covered, but the overall insurance is an indemnity rather than a product or service.
So do we have a policy on similarly for insurance?
No, we don't. We don't have a council policy. We do have local government insurers that we work with, and each year we have a I'm trying to remember the term, but we do go to market for insurances and ask for bids on our insurance suite. And that's guided by sort of industry standards and the market for local government insurance. But we don't have a particular policy internally about how we select that.
Okay, thank you for that. Yeah, look, I'm also very happy to support this procurement policy. I also agree with Councillor Gaffney. I think by 5 years is too long. I'd really like to see with these policies and strategies that we bring that they have a date on them for review, so that that goes straight into a calendar rather than it just be a maybe in 5 years, maybe if we want to see it earlier. I mean, if the review date's in there and it's not, we can just flick past it. But I think it'd be a great process to have that somehow a date for it myself. But thank you for the review of it, and great to see, as Councillor Gaffney said, those changes for social and environment.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else wish to speak to this motion? Okay, well then I'll put the motion. All those in favour?
Madam Mayor?
Yeah? Oh,
Sum
you
up.
wish to sum up? Okay. Usually only if other people have spoken, but you go for it.
I'd just like to mention that it's going out for exhibition for 3 weeks for
Yes.
community comment.
Great. Thank you, Councillor. All right, now I'll put the motion. All those in favour? And carried. All right, so 10.6 is the Domestic Animal Management Plan for 2021 to 2025. The recommendation is that Council endorses the attached plan for public exhibition, places it on exhibition for a period of 3 weeks, and invites submissions. Do I have someone to move that, please? I have Councillor Gaffney. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Price. Councillor Gaffney?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Under Section 68A of the Domestic Animals Act 1994, every council must prepare a domestic animals management plan for 4 years. I'd like to mention that Indigo Shire Council provides a 24-hour-a-day, 365 days a year service for animal management. The Indigo Shire has 3,500 registered dogs and 676 registered cats. Under the section roaming or straying cats and dogs, under Section 23 of the Domestic Animals Act, cats in Indigo Shire are subject to the requirements of the Domestic Animals Act 1994 that require that they be securely confined to the owner's premises. Indigo Shire Council has not made an order under this Act to stipulate particular hours for confinement, and therefore this requirement operates at all times of the day and night.
Okay. That it. Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Price.
Just a question first. This is going out for exhibition for 3 weeks. I just wanted to be clear that that's
what the motion says. Yes, 3 weeks.
And so is that a change from, is there some timeline that we're trying to meet, or is that a change from our usual? Because I thought we'd adopted a longer consultation period, sort of a standard than that.
Yeah, Director Pinkerton.
Yeah, it was considered 3 weeks was appropriate, given that there's not many changes to this. This is more of an update and refresh. And the idea was to get it back this year rather than have it out and appearing, well, there's no January meeting, so it would be February. And so that seemed to be a bit too long. So we're trying to get this back and finalised.
Okay.
Great.
You're all right with that, Councillor? And CEO Areno.
Probably just worthwhile reminding community about there was a change with the last Local Government Act that replaced what used to be the standard 223 process, which was basically fixed 28 days for everything. It's now, under the Local Government Act, we've now replaced that with our own engagement policy, which provides for a lot more flexibility. So we'll have some things where we'll say, I think it's a minimum, we've got a minimum of 2 weeks, and topic by topic and circumstance by circumstance, we'll suggest different timeframes: 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 2 months, 3 months. So depending on the topic, we'll vary that. In this case, we felt that this was quite appropriate in the circumstance.
Okay. Any other?
I'll just make a comment now.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Price.
That's okay. Just interested to let the community know the tone of the document, particularly from the summary page. The focus of the service the Animal Management Service, relates to the minimisation of risk to the community and harm to other animals and livestock. Council's goal is responsible and safe animal ownership. And I just encourage all members of the community, and I'm looking forward to the Environment Committee also having some input. It's been a constant topic of that committee's for the last 4 years. And so I look forward to their feedback and the communities as well. Hopefully 3 weeks is long enough.
Thanks, Councillor. Councillor Croucher.
Yeah, I just wanted to follow on from Councillor Price. When it talks about it's placed on an exhibition for a period of 3 weeks, I just wonder what the exhibition part is. Does that mean it's on the website, or are there hard copies going around the Shire or not? And because dogs and cats, they're everywhere, and there's always lots of problems with people coming up to me and asking about that. And I'm just sort of wondering too, maybe in the mayoral's message each week, that you could sort of mention that this particular document is on display and you can see it in the such and such.
Sure. Yeah, put it out in the weekly update. Yeah. I'm sure it'll be on there. CEO.
Just with the expert. Yeah, thanks.
Sorry, CEO wanted to
right.
respond to you, and then.
So different topics will have different arrangements. When we put on exhibition, we have a standard range. It'll be on the website. The weekly update has a special section on Have Your Say. It lists out all the things that are currently out on exhibition, with links then to find the details of that. So we don't generally these days we don't generally print hard copies and put them around the place. It's mainly electronic. But if people are really struggling with that, they can always contact us and we can try and help them out.
Okay.
I guess it's a real community thing, dogs and cats and so forth.
Yeah.
And dogs and all that sort of thing. And it would be really just good to know that rather than come and ask us, that they can go onto the website and find the document and so forth. That would be good.
And we will definitely refer to it in the weekly update. Yes, Councillor Shepherd.
I know there's been discussion about a cat curfew at IEAC, at the Environment Committee, and we did speak a briefing about whether we thought a cat curfew was something to support. But then we were referred to the Domestic Animal Act of 1994 that requires that cats be securely confined to the owner's premises. So at any time of night and day, a cat should be anyway, whether we have a curfew or not, should be confined to someone's own premises. So I think the community probably need to be made a bit more aware of that. I know on the web page, I'm not sure whether it was changed, but I noted that there wasn't anything like pushing for that. Under is there a cat curfew? It just said no. I think it'd be really good to have there that, there is a cat curfew really done by the Act. You've got to keep your cat. And I'm a cat lover, but you've got to keep your cat within your own property.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Councillor. Anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Horn.
I just think we need to be mindful that there are lots of people who don't actually have the internet. So posters advising this sort of information would be very helpful to have around on the notice boards around the various towns.
Okay, thanks for that. So that's a comment from you, Councillor. Anyone else, sorry, wish to speak to this motion? I'll go back to the mover, Councillor Gaffney.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I'd just say that over the last 2 years, right across this Shire and beyond, I've never seen so many dogs in all my life. They are everywhere. And I think it's a good thing, and even tourists coming, they seem to bring their children and their dogs, which is very dog friendly, I'm sure, to a major degree.
Yeah, apparently COVID has seen a big uptake in pets in the home. Okay, so I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. And we look forward to hearing comments from the community. Thank you for that. 11.1 is the Draft Disability Action Plan 21 to 2025. The recommendation is that Council endorses the attached plan. Councillor Price, did you want to, I think we spoke about adding in, so yeah.
Yes, please. So can I move the recommendation as it is, but also include a point 2, which I'll read now?
Yeah, please.
provides in principle support for the lodgement of a funding application to the Department of Families, Fairness and Housing for a changing places facility to be installed in Indigo Shire to support the particular high needs of people with disabilities.
Thank you. Have you got that, Jane, in a minute? Okay, great. So you want that as point 2?
Yes,
and
please.
The rest as is, which is to endorse the plan, to put it on exhibition for a period of 60 days and to invite submissions. Councillor Goldsworthy.
Yeah, it probably should be point 4. I know in the email at point 2, but it should be point 4 on the email.
Okay, yeah, that makes more sense. All right, you happy with that, Councillor Price?
Yep, thank you.
Move it to point 4. All right, so the recommendation is that we endorse the plan, place it on exhibition for 60 days, invite submissions and in principle support for a grant application for a changing place facility in Indigo. Do I have someone to move? Oh, Councillor Price, you've moved that. Seconded, Councillor Croucher. Councillor Price.
Yeah, I'm really pleased to see this come through. I know the amount of work that's gone into this plan from Kate O'Toole, the officer in charge, and she's done this work alongside the Access Committee, which is really becoming a real strength of Indigo Shires. It's such a high functioning committee and we get such valuable input from them. And it's fantastic to see the array of work that we do in this area now to be able to demonstrate it in this plan. On the changing places funding, again, that's another idea that's come from the Access Committee from a previous committee member, Kate Casley. She brought a myriad of ideas to the committee that we hadn't thought of and really widened the approach of the committee to be geared more towards inclusion. And once we identified this funding, we've been really aware of it ever since and really waiting for it to become available, because the last round of funding was 2017 and it doesn't come up that often. So it's formed part of our discussion for new infrastructure builds about where it would be most appropriately located across the Shire, so that you not only have a fully accessible changing place in the town, but it needs to be in one of our towns that has the most accessible amenities and shops, so that we can provide a whole experience. And I think if Indigo Shire can be successful in obtaining this funding, it will really be a feather in our cap, because there aren't many of these sites right across the state. And I think we need more and more of them, and we could provide an important link along the Hume Freeway for people travelling and also to our community.
Okay, thanks, Councillor. Councillor Croucher.
Yeah, look, as a member of the Access Committee, I too endorse everything that Councillor Price has said, and I've been part of the process in developing that actual plan. And the Access Committee continue to provide input into it, and now the community have the opportunity to have their say. I would like to congratulate particularly Kate O'Toole and her other members of council and the committee on the production of that particular plan. I see the importance of the changing place facility in our Shire to support not only the people of our Shire, but also any visitors or tourists to our Shire as well.
Thanks, Councillor. Anyone else wish to speak to this motion? Councillor Shepherd.
I was surprised when I read in the report that in 2018 there were 3,262 people, or 20.2% of the Indigo Shire population living with a disability. So that's significant, really. And I think we're doing a good job. In the time that I've been on council, I've been noting the fact that the committee is so much more engaged with the decisions around disability and access, and that we have now our own Kate O'Toole working in that area. And I think we're really making a difference there. And I think we need to be congratulated, and the council need to be congratulated on the great work that's happening. And it's great to see this plan too, and with it formed out on what we'll be doing in the future.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor. Councillor Gaffney.
Just got a question with the CEO, and I've asked this question before. Does Indigo Shire Council have a policy or recommendation regarding the employment of people with a disability?
I think the answer is we don't have a specific policy on it, but we certainly have general policies on providing opportunities far and wide. So I'd like to take the rest of that on notice, maybe get back to you in writing exactly what we have got there, Councillor, and we can put those in the minutes of the meeting.
Thanks, Sia.
Okay. Anyone else wish to speak to this motion? All right, I'll come back to Councillor Price to sum up.
Just really pleased to see this document because it's interesting being on the committee and seeing how we've really embedded access into our shire, and it means that infrastructure items come through and the access committee is able to review them and provide advice. It means that we have a really strong advisory committee that we really rely heavily on, and they are an extra resource for our council. And it's good to see that we can apply for this Changing Places funding, because it makes sense with so many of the things that we have in the Disability Action Plan, one of them being the good access, good business model that Kate O'Toole's really been championing right across the Shire, which is to make businesses more accessible and better places to do business. So thank you again to those staff for all of that good work. And we have a very good success rate with funding. So let's hope that continues and we're successful obtaining a changing place in the Indigo Shire.
Thanks, Councillor. Okay, well, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? That's carried. And I also would like to take the opportunity to thank the committee, the Access Committee, for the fantastic work that they've done to really open our eyes up to how we can make our communities as accessible to everybody, irrespective of their abilities, and to make it both a great place to live and a great place to visit. So thank you so much to those people and to the councillors who were involved in that as well. You've done great work. Okay, 11.2, Reflect Reconciliation Action Plan. So the recommendation is that Council endorses the Indigo Shire Council Reflect Reconciliation Action Plan and progresses the Plan for Reconciliation Australia endorsement. Acknowledges that the RAP is the name of the acronym. The RAP is a working document intended to guide Indigo Shire Council's engagement with local Aboriginal groups, and nominates 2 councillors to participate on the Indigo Shire Council RAP working group. Do I have someone to move that and to name the councillors? I've got Councillor Goldsworthy, second Councillor.
Yeah, now I just got a question in relation to it, sorry.
Yeah.
Has this been out for public consultation?
Mark Florence, Director Florence.
So as a formal process, no, Councillor. As the intent is to progress it to Reconciliation Australia, and through that process, when it comes back from them, there will be a more targeted approach to the community. Although I do make the point that this is the first stage, which is more of an organisational view as opposed to community. We know that community has strong feelings on this and they'll be captured, but the first part of it is looking at the organisation and how it can be best positioned to improve its engagement with Aboriginal groups. And then from that, the community projects will stem from there.
Okay.
Just a follow-up question, if I may.
Yeah.
So if it goes to Reconciliation Australia and then goes out to the community, does that not mean that Reconciliation Australia have already, let's say, endorsed it if it comes back from them, and there won't be a lot of opportunity then for the public to make submissions in relation to the internal actions of council?
There'll be some. The next stages, remembering that this is a 4-stage process through the reconciliation journey, and the next stages are the ones where the community projects and community organisations more broadly will be involved. Not to say that they won't have the community won't have an opportunity to comment on what its organisation, its council is approaching, but the process as set by Reconciliation Australia is what's outlined in the report.
Okay.
Yeah.
Could you see any problems with putting it out to the community for 30 days?
Look, as a whole, no. I think we've just got to be careful about creating an expectation that the community will come with a whole range of different views and projects, or not so, not so engaging projects, where we're looking to establish a base position as part of the reflect. So the reflect stage is to look at the organisation and how it reflects on what it does through its own work. And obviously then as part of that is communicating that to the community. And then the next stages of the process is when the community gets really involved in the actions and the activities.
All right, thanks.
Your short answer is there's no significant risk, but just the risk would be of just muddying the waters a little bit, I suppose.
All right, thank you. I'm happy to nominate yourself, Mayor O'Connor, and Councillor Shepherd as the participants, if you so desire.
All right, so happy to move the motion as is, and Councillor Shepherd and myself to be on that working group. And Councillor Shepherd, you had your hand up. Do you want to second that? All right, great. So do you wish to speak to it, Councillor Goldsworthy?
Only to say that there is a strong movement for reconciliation. We're part of this process, and we need to acknowledge and recognise Aboriginal heritage in our area and what we can do to support reconciliation.
Thanks, Councillor. Councillor Shepherd?
I think, as Director Florence said, this first part in reflect, I think the word reflect is really shows us that this is an opportunity in this stage for councillors and staff to reflect on our relationship and the history and the story and how it relates to us as a council, really, as a workplace, and as we're reaching out to the community, to a certain part of that community. So there's some of the short-term topics are is to develop terms of reference for the internal working group to begin with, and then work out how we acknowledge the traditional owners when we have meetings, and when we're meeting, even just in some of our smaller council meetings, we often don't really have yet a formula or on what we say. I think we all say our own things. So just those early on things of setting up relationships, setting up things that how we introduce and acknowledge Indigenous communities. I think there's an opportunity also for us as councillors to have cultural training with. I see the council staff have already had it, but there's opportunities for us with the Koori Heritage Trust to have some training, and I really would suggest that we have that as soon as we can, if that could happen.
Yeah.
So that would be great. So yeah, I look forward to being part of this process and wending our way through in taking this further will there be an opportunity, Mark, to move on to the other sections of the RAP? So I see reflect is number 1.
Yeah, so progressively as we move through, and remembering that we're working essentially on a template established by Reconciliation Australia. So, we'll just need to work with them in terms of when we're ready to move through to the next stage.
Thanks, Councillor. Councillor Gaffney, and then Councillor Horn.
I'd like to make it clear that I'm certainly not against this action plan, but I have got some questions. Back in the day, was there a government body that was called the Council for Reconciliation? And has Reconciliation Australia taken over from that group?
Sorry, Madam Mayor.
Over to you. Yeah.
Yeah. I wouldn't like to comment too much. The previous body had probably had its own terms of reference and its own particular focus. What I can advise is Reconciliation Australia has been specifically set up to work with organisations in establishing awareness, the various 4 stages of it. You know, the goals and aspirations of the previous body may have been different to what this is at the moment. So the report indicates fairly strongly that, you know, we're working with an organisation that's been established to create awareness, to create education and create opportunity, and, you know, makes the point that over 900 organisations, including a lot of councils, are part of that process along the way now.
Who set up this group?
It would have been a federal government initiative, but they're an independent body to, you know, at arm's length to government to work on a specific reconciliation process.
Do you know of any other councils in northeast Victoria that have got a reconciliation plan?
I don't really know. Definitely, and with respect, I don't think that really matters. It's
no,
really,
I'm just asking the question though.
Yeah.
I didn't ask you whether you think it matters. Are there any councils that you know of?
Not that I'm aware of that are involved in this process. Not to say that
All
there
right.
aren't. It's just that I'm not aware.
Thanks. In action 1, it says consult with community regarding changes to Australia Day functions, including the format and the Australian Day awards process. When you say consult with community, is that with the Aboriginal community or with the community in general?
That would be with the community in general, which would include the Aboriginal community as well.
Of course. Has Reconciliation Australia, does it have a policy on Australia Day?
I don't know the detail of that, councillor, but at the moment there is a requirement, or not a requirement, but each council or each organisation celebrates Australia Day or recognises Australia Day in particular ways.
All right, that question, could you take it on notice?
Sure.
Whether Reconciliation Australia have a policy on Australia Day?
Okay. Councillor, do you have any questions? Do you want to speak to the motion?
I've got another question.
Oh,
Under Action 11, it talks about develop a business case for procurement from Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander owned businesses and investigate supply nation membership and or Kinaway for Victorian procurement opportunities. I'm not sure about Supply Nation membership, but Kinaway is a Chamber of Commerce based in Richmond, is that right?
you're on mute, Director. Mark, you're on, yeah.
Yeah, beg your pardon. I believe so. I don't have a lot of details on that.
I'm just wondering, we've just passed the procurement policy and there's no mention of these in that policy.
Yes, that's true at this point, and the action in the Reconciliation Action Plan is to develop a policy or, a process which may have a procurement component emanating from it that may be introduced into a future procurement policy for council to consider.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Anyone else wish to speak to this motion? Councillor Horn.
I was interested to see that there in the 2016 census that there were actually 204 people recognising themselves as Aboriginal or Torres Island people. And it was an increase of 41%. So that's quite a significant increase. And it would be very interesting to see what the latest census brings up. I was also very pleased to see that returning museum artefacts was part of their summary of reconciliation changes that they're looking to make, because I know that we have some very culturally significant places around our shire. So I thought they were very positive moves.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Anyone else? You want to sum up, Councillor Goldsworthy?
Yeah, if there's nobody else to speak, I'd just like to take a leaf out of the RAP itself, and it says the Indigo Shire Council has prioritised improving leadership and relations with Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities across the Shire. Strategic Objective 1.4 within the Council plan is that our Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people are valued, respected, and their contributions recognised and celebrated. Council understands the potential to improve mental health outcomes for marginalised groups such as Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities by the creation of the RAP, which recognises strong appreciation and awareness for the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander culture can foster confidence and resilience as well as connections and respect across the community. That says it all as to why we should support this RAP.
Thank you, Councillor. Okay, so I'm going to put the motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thanks, councillors. 11.3 is the 2021 and to 22 community grants. So the recommendation is that council distributes $50,000 in the 2021-22 Indigo Shire Community Grants Program as follows. And I won't list them because there's many groups that will benefit from this. And secondly, that we distribute $30,000 in the one-off COVID support and sporting equipment funding as part of the community grants program as follows. So there's additional money that has been able to be distributed there. And thirdly, that we thank the Indigo Shire Community Grants and Awards Advisory Committee. Do I have someone to move this? Councillor Croucher, do I have a seconder? Councillor Gaffney. Councillor Croucher.
Okay, this was quite a challenging task for the Community Grants and Awards Advisory Committee, as they had 45 applications to consider from all corners of the Shire. The committee, with representatives also is throughout the Shire, considered each application very comprehensively and made the recommendation to council who should receive funding assistance as to those. Now, as a member and chairman of that panel, I would like to thank the council staff, particularly Jess and Carleen, for the preparation of the day and also all the applications, as you can imagine, were quite a lot. And those community members who gave up their time to assess these applications, and congratulate the applicants who will receive the funding after we okay them tonight.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Gaffney.
I was also a member of this committee, but I couldn't make it on that particular day. I'd read the applications and obviously didn't have any input whatsoever, but it was a mammoth task for Councillor Croucher. And over the days after that, I received a number of telephone calls to say that how well Councillor Croucher held the meeting together without interfering at all, and what an excellent chair he was. And I wouldn't be saying this if it wasn't true. And I don't think I've ever had phone calls from members of the community who are part of a committee to praise the chair like they did. So well done, Peter.
Thank you.
And as you read through, it's a massive task with not a large amount of money, and to spread it so well, you've done it well. The committee's done a great job, and I'm told the staff did a great job as well.
Terrific. Anyone else wish to speak to this motion? Councillor Horn.
I think this is a prime example of the benefits of having a broad range of community members involved in this decision making, because they bring not only their time and experience, but also their memories of things that have happened in the past and the connection with their communities, and just the diversity of these grants and the many areas that have been benefited by that experience that they bring to them, to these panels. So I also endorse their contribution and think that it's a very valuable asset that we have, and they have to take full advantage of it.
Thanks, Councillor. Anyone else wish to speak to this motion? Councillor Price.
Just to say, this is one of the best parts about being on council, I think, is to see that a dish pig pressure pump, 2 tennis nets and a box of balls, clubhouse upgrade, purchase of 2 power. Such small things can have such a big impact to community groups, and particularly in COVID times, it's so nice that we can provide this support. And again, to thank Councillor Croucher, Councillor Gaffney and the committee. I know that this process is a really robust one, and I think it's something we can be really proud of. And good luck to all of those community groups for the next 12 months. Hopefully it's nowhere near as disruptive as it has been.
Thanks, Councillor. Anyone else wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Horn, I think you already have.
But I'd just like to add, the staff are very good at reallocating amounts that don't necessarily meet the particular grant requirements. And I think that's a very, very valuable thing for them to be able to do, to be aware of and to suggest.
Okay, thanks, Councillor. Any other councillors? Councillor Goldsworthy.
I just make the observation that the requested funds totaled $132,000 for a total value of projects for $245,000. I know that the committee couldn't fund them all, but from the work that they have done, it's certainly a great injection of cash into our local community.
Okay, anyone else? Thanks, Councillor. Anyone else? Okay, do you want to sum up, Councillor Croucher?
Yeah, very briefly. I heard what Councillor Price said. It is amazing what a little community who may get $4,000 for something, they are really in their element to fix up their spouting or to do something like that. And again, this was a wonderful group, and thank goodness we had that extra money this year from the COVID business as well. So that gave everybody a bit of a bite of the cherry, which was great.
Okay, I'm going to put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. And congratulations to the 40, I just counted up 40 successful applicants there. And I really want to say that, you know, not many councils do this at all, and for a little council like ours with such a limited budget, I think it's something we can all be very proud of. And again, thank you to the committee and the councils that were involved in doing such a great job to support so many different members of our community in so many different events and activities. So yeah, it is a moment that we all feel really, really happy to be part of. Okay, so 11.4 is the Community Events Grant Program, and the recommendation is that Council distributes $12,625 of funds in the Community Events Grant Program as follows, and there's 8 allocated there. Carries forward the remaining $2,375 of this grant budget to the 2022-23 Community Event Grant Fund, and acknowledges the work of the Grant Assessment Panel in reviewing applications and determining funding distribution. Do I have someone to move this one?
That one again.
Councillor Croucher again, and do I have a seconder? Councillor Horn. Okay, Councillor Croucher.
Yes, well, I had the opportunity of chairing this one as well, and it was so different. It was so different from the community grants because we only had 9 applications, and the panel was different because the panel was made up of arts people, sports people, and local health services representatives as well. And I chaired the review of the applications, and once again, assessments were made in an objective and professional manner. Thank you once again to the council staff, particularly to those names I mentioned, the Jess Johnstons and the Carleens, and to you, Mark, as well. I'm sure you had a lot of input into it, for being part of such a worthwhile program. This was very, very new for me because we didn't have this program when I was in council last time, and a community events program different to a community program was something that was really, really great. And again, these people will be very wonderful to accept the amounts of money that we are able to offer them tonight.
Okay, Councillor Horn, do you wish to speak as seconder?
Yes, I hope that when our community members see these grants, that they'll be encouraged to put in for the next lot of grants that come up. There's a diverse range of subjects that are covered, and great work by everybody.
Thank you, Councillor. Anyone else wish to speak to this item? Councillor Shepherd.
I'd just like to thank Councillor Croucher for chairing those committees. I feel quite confident in supporting these motions, hearing back from him about the process. And it's just great to be able to have someone with their finger on the pulse in there, being able to speak to us at this council meeting about the process, and you're happy to support it. And so thank you. I know it's time, it's a lot of time and a lot of effort, but I appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely. Okay. Any other councillors wish to speak to this motion? Councillor Croucher, back to you to sum up.
No, I have nothing more to say.
I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. And yes, a hearty thanks to you, Councillor Croucher, for doing such a great job. 12.1, the Road Management Plan 2021 version, and the recommendation is that Council notes the Road Management Plan review report and that the review has been conducted in accordance with the regulations, notes that none of the proposed changes to the plan result in a lowering of standards, and adopts the Road Management Plan version 6/2021 as Indigo Shire Council's amended Road Management Plan. Do I have someone to move this? Thanks, Councillor Goldsworthy. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Shepherd? Yes, thank you.
It's part of the process we need to go through. I think it's an annual process. I don't think it changes that much. The changes are in there. Something we need to do and adopt.
Okay, thanks, Councillor. Councillor Shepherd?
I think it's always good to say that we've got 1,500 kilometres of gravel and sealed road and close to 100 kilometres of pathways. So we do need a management plan. Nothing has changed significantly in this to lower the standards. So it would have had to go out to the community if there was a lowering of standard. But there's only a couple of changes that are put in. I just have a look there. Reference to the road fire management strategy, reference to Vic Roads requires updating, reference to inspection frequency, and I suppose the one that's probably of most interest to the community is the road register review, where there's been 31 road segments that have been reviewed, and I know there were some around near me where letters went out saying we're just reviewing your section of the road and how we're upkeeping it and getting feedback from them. So I think that's still a process that's still happening, but they're the only changes.
Okay, thanks, Councillor. Anyone else wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Goldsworthy, do you want to add anything? Okay, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Thanks, councillors. 12.2 is the September Capital Works report. So the recommendation is that Council notes the September Capital Works report and the year-to-date achievements in the delivery of the Capital Works program. Do I have someone to move it? Councillor Goldsworthy. Seconder. Councillor Shepherd. Councillor Goldsworthy.
Look at highlights there at the bottom of page 85 in the report about the receiving of the $5.1 million from the Building Better Regions Fund for the Rutherglen Wine Walking Cycle Trail. Such an important aspect to our cycling offering. Hopefully it'll bring even more tourists into our area, and will complement the Murray Mountains trail that's currently being built between Beechworth and Osmonds Flat. I'd also add in there the Budson Park lighting, $150,000 to the state government's country football and netball program. If you look at the spreadsheet that's set out, I think it's over $20 million or $20.6 million now in projects that will be budgeted for this financial year between Indigo Shire assets and non-council assets. Huge budget. I've praised before about the size of our capital works budget previously, but this just adds even more weight and more expectations on the Director for Infrastructure and the CEO to deliver it all. So more power to you all, and I hope we can deliver for the community what we've been funded to do.
Great, thank you. Councillor Shepherd. Second it? No? Okay, you want to, anyone else wish to speak to this motion? Councillor Croucher.
Yeah, I'd just like to, it's always good to get an update on the capital works achievements, and particularly when the delivery is progressing pretty well. I'd particularly like to thank very much for the nice new footpath we've got from the new estate in Tangambalanga to the main street. It's a wonderful achievement there because we have so many young families in that now that are using it, and it's just wonderful. And it's good to see that happening all the time. So thank you very much to the people, and congratulations on your efforts.
Great. Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak to this motion? All right. You don't want to sum up, Councillor Goldsworthy? All right, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. And yeah, it's a huge amount of work to be done. So thank you very much to Ian Ellett and his team. 13.1 is the annual report 2020-21. Recommendation is that Council receives the Indigo Shire Council Annual Report 2020-21. Do I have someone to move it? Councillor Goldsworthy. Seconder, Councillor Price. Councillor Goldsworthy.
For the most part, this report shows the end of the last term of council between the 2016-20 and the delivery of those projects and moving into our current council. We had exciting 4 years last time round, and I think it's only going to get bigger this time around. Yeah, so it just highlights some of the achievements throughout, and as I mentioned in the last item, some of our capital improvements have been quite significant. And for a shire of just over 16,000 people, I think we offer our community a great place to live and to work and to visit.
That is true. Okay. Councillor, thank you. Councillor Price.
It's always interesting reading through what's been achieved in this time, but particularly at the moment, knowing the pressure that has been on the organisation, but the requirement for us to still provide exactly the same services. So I think it's really incredible to see that we've maintained the same level of service and been able to pivot in different areas with things like the book valet. So hats off to the organisation, really, I think, because normally it's a really collegiate sort of approach in an office setting that we provide all these services from, and a lot of that hasn't been the case for the period of this annual report. So well done.
Okay, anyone else wish to speak to this? Councillor Shepherd and then Councillor Croucher.
I just wanted to highlight the environmental things that we covered this year. We completed a new waste strategy. We improved our energy efficiency in council buildings and operations. We reassessed the roadside conservation values across the Shire, and we joined the VECO, so Victorian Energy Collaboration. So we're now 100% renewable energy used by Indigo Shire Council. So I think we're really doing a great job too in the environment in just 1 year. So congratulations to that department.
Thank you. Councillor Croucher.
And I think from this side of the Shire, we can't forget the purchasing of the land at Keewar for the community river access, which they've been looking for years and years and years. And I see they've had a couple of meetings already. They've got a master plan drawn up. So that is really, really, really terrific news. So congratulations for that. And the completion of the rail trail from Yekanan to Osmond's Flat. And of course, from this side of the Shire, we're looking for it to come over here to Tangambalanga, over to the Weir as well. So there you are. Well done.
Anyone else wish to speak to this motion? I do need to actually add my bit because it's actually under the Local Government Act that the Mayor does update the community. So I just really want to say that, as mentioned, it's all spelled out there what we actually have achieved, and people have mentioned some of those things. There's quite a long list, everything from rail trails to upgrading buildings, strategies, facilities right across the Shire that people do, as well as putting together our community vision and some of the internal work that had to be done. What I want to say is that this happened in a year unlike any other. So we came out of a fire season that had us all living on the edges of our nerves for about 2 months, really. It went on and had a massive impact on our economy. We rolled straight into a COVID pandemic that has not let up, and in fact right now it looks like it's ramping up again, and our staff have worked tirelessly to deliver all the business as usual, as well as in a very positive way. We've had a big influx of funding for projects that we might not normally have seen. All of that's happened, and it has been kept, the organisation has kept going. We've tried to engage with community as best we can throughout this in whatever way we could. And so I really want to thank Trevor and the staff for just doing such an amazing job of keeping Indigo Shire going throughout such a difficult period, and then delivering over and above in doing that. So I now am going to put the motion. I'll go back to Councillor Goldsworthy if you wish to sum up.
Only to support your comments and others, to say the CEO, the staff and everyone down from there have done a fantastic job. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. All right, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. All right, 13.2 is the instruments of delegation review. The recommendation is that Council delegates to the person holding the position, acting in or performing the duties of CEO, the powers and duties and functions set out in the attached instrument of delegation CEO, subject to conditions, and delegates to the members of the council staff holding, acting in or performing the duties of the positions referred to in the attached instrument of delegation. It goes on and on and on. I won't read it all. It's all there available for everyone to read. But the upshot is that we are delegating responsibilities to the CEO and relevant staff. Do I have someone to move this? Councillor Shepherd, do I have a seconder? Councillor Goldsworthy? Councillor Shepherd.
This was last reviewed in April 21, and because of significant changes to the EPA, the Environment Protection Act, the delegation gives Council the power to exercise the EPA's powers and functions to regulate on-site wastewater management systems and noise from construction, demolition or removal of residential premises. So they're the major changes in this delegation. Yes, let's approve it.
Thank you. Councillor Goldsworthy?
No delegations, a lot of work for councillors.
This is true. Anyone else wish to speak to this motion? Okay, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Thank you. 13.3, instrument of appointment and authorisation for the Planning and Environment Act. The recommendation is that in the exercise of the powers conferred under section 224 of the Act and the other legislation referred to, Indigo Shire Council resolves that members of the council staff referred to in the instrument attached be appointed and authorised to set out in the instrument. The instrument of appointment comes into force immediately upon resolution of council, and the instrument remains in force while the officer remains employed by council. Do I have someone to move this? Thank you, Councillor Price. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Goldsworthy. Councillor Price, do you wish to speak to this? Okay, Councillor Goldsworthy.
Yes, the more planners we have, the better.
This is true. It's always good to see new planners. Anyone else wish to speak to the item? Okay, I'll put the item, all those in favour? Carried. Thanks, councillors. 13.4 is the Audit and Risk Committee biannual report. The recommendation is that council note the biannual report from the Audit and Risk Committee. Do I have someone to move this? Councillor Gaffney. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Price. Councillor Gaffney. You're on mute. It's so good when we don't have to say that anymore.
This report is a requirement of the Local Government Act 2020. I'd just like to say that Kay, thoroughly after serving 3 terms on the Audit Committee, she certainly made Indigo Shire Council and councillors very accountable. I think she kept us all on our toes. I'd like to recognise her knowledge and skills that she's passed on to other members of that committee, and she'll be sadly missed.
Okay, Councillor Price.
Another really effective committee to be a part of. They don't meet very frequently throughout the year, but the workload is enormous when they do. And they're a really important committee for council because it's really high level discussion about risk and risk management. And I think it's really important for councillors to be a part of. And I'd encourage councillors to come along and attend. Some of the issues that we've dealt with over this period has been the risk policy and framework. The committee's provided considerable guidance and oversight to the development of the risk management policy risk management framework, including supporting council in the development of an effective risk appetite statement and approach. The ongoing issue of outstanding audit items, that's really always being paid a lot of attention. The committee have worked with management to review outstanding internal audit recommendations, and work continues on not only reviewing the status of items, but also improving the reporting process. And appointment of internal audit. The selection panel appointed by the committee undertook a robust tender process to identify and recommend the appointment of the internal audits for the next 3 years. Expression of interest, shortlisted presentations and reference checks were all part of the process. The committee recommended to council the reappointment of incumbent AFS for a further 3-year period. It's a dry read because all of these things have got really boring names, but it's a very interesting committee and really great discussion. And I think it's really good. This is a really good outcome from the Local Government Act that gets presented to council for oversight for us as councillors and to present to the community to demonstrate the work that they do.
Thanks, Councillor. Anyone else wish to speak to this motion? Back to you, Councillor Gaffney.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. The only other thing I'd like to add is the delegate from the Auditor General's Department of the State Government gave Indigo Shire Council a glowing report, which speaks volumes for the Director of Corporate Affairs, the Manager of Finance, and also the Audit Committee. They presented very well, and to get such a glowing report is very, very pleasing. And I'm pleased to be a member of that committee with Councillor Price.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. Thanks, councillors. 13.5 is the Audit and Risk Committee Performance Survey, and the recommendation is that council note the Audit and Risk Committee Performance Survey Report 2020-21. Do I have someone to move this? Councillor Price. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Gaffney. Councillor Price?
It's an interesting read, this survey. It's not necessarily a glowing report, but I don't think that reflects anything other than the really high standard of account this committee holds itself to. And so that would be my advice to other councillors reading this and trying to understand the survey results. This committee is in a bit of a transitional phase from some old membership through to some new membership, and we have really full and frank discussion about the input that we expect from councillors, staff, independent members, and I think this performance survey reflects the fact that we really expect a high standard, and that's what we'll be striving for.
Thanks, Councillor. Councillor Gaffney.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. This survey was done after the July meeting of the Audit and Risk Committee. Needless to say that the September meeting was very, very robust. When the committee went into confidential, they met for a considerable amount of time and went over a lot of issues. And the result of this survey, as Councillor Price said, is bones and all, has just made the committee a lot more robust, a lot more interested, and we expect very good meetings in the future.
Okay, great. Anyone else wish to speak to this motion? Councillor Horn and then Councillor Croucher.
I'd like to ask the Charter Is that reviewed very often, or is that established at the outset and just carries on?
Who would be best to answer? CEO.
Charter's reviewed quite regularly. So part of the annual review of its self-assessment is also a review of the charter to see if it's still current or relevant and whether there should be any changes recommended to council from the committee.
Thank you very much. The other thing I was very pleased to see was that the committee has shown an openness to new ideas and different views in its deliberations, and I think that's going to be very, very valuable in this stage of us recovering from all the impact of COVID. So, yeah, I was pleased to see that. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Croucher.
Yeah, I'd just like to say that we actually are noting this document or all this information, but I think there's some wonderful feedback for the committee here that they can use, the good and the bad, whatever it is. I think this is a great way of getting feedback into your committee and able to use this information for later meetings and so forth.
Yeah. Anyone else speak to the motion? Okay, I'll go back to Councillor Price. Do you wish to sum up? All right, I'm going to put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. Thanks, councillors. 13.6 is the advisory committee minutes. The recommendation is that council receives the unconfirmed advisory committee minutes, notes the following recommendations from the finance committee, which is that the annual performance statement and financial statements be endorsed in principle, and that the committee endorses the 2021 asset revaluation review. Notes the recommendations from the finance committee at the 21st of September meeting that council accepts the August 21 finance report and endorses the officer comments for each recommendation as listed. Do I have someone to move that? Councillor Shepherd, second Councillor Price. Councillor Shepherd.
Yes, well, I think we've already accepted the annual performance statement and financial statements in the September meeting. So most of those actions that actions happened, and there weren't any others from the others. So, yep, happy to approve that.
Councillor Price. Anyone wish to add anything? Ask any questions? No, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. Thanks, councillors. 13.7, the informal meeting of councillor records. Recommendation is that council accepts the informal meeting of councillor records as attached. Do I have someone to move that? Councillor Price. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Croucher. Councillor Price, do you wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Croucher, do you wish to speak to the motion? Anyone else wish to speak to the motion? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? And it's carried. Thanks, councillors. 13.8 is contracts awarded under the CEO's delegation for August, and there were no contracts awarded under delegation in August. So just noting that. 13.9 is the council action plan, and the recommendation is that council notes the Q1 21-22 council plan progress report. Do I have someone to move that? Councillor Goldsworthy, do I have a seconder? Councillor Croucher. Councillor Goldsworthy, do you wish to speak to this?
Well, look, the council plan drives most council actions, except for those that are spontaneously or reactive. And look, it's early in the work in progress in relation to the actions coming out of the plan. Probably the one point to note is the behind schedule one, which is the complete of the review of the council's planning scheme. It's something that I think most councillors have been interested in for a number of years, and pretty keen to see it started. So it'll be good to get that done. There's a few other items in there that haven't been commenced or they're on their way. And yeah, so it's early in the process, and hopefully by the end of the year, we'll have a lot more done.
Okay, thanks, councillor. Councillor Croucher.
I'd just like to endorse what Councillor Goldsworthy said, but on the other hand, have 63% on track. I think that's a pretty good number to be continuing on with, and even 6% are completed. So let's keep moving along. Well done.
Okay, great. Anyone else? Councillor Shepherd.
I'm just wondering if I could ask Director Pinkerton, the head of planning, about what the delay is in the planning scheme review.
Yes, Director Pinkerton.
Yes, thank you. So the state government's going through a process with councils to translate their planning scheme from an old format to a new format. And in that process, we're not through that process yet. We've seen a couple of iterations of our planning scheme and we're still working through that. At this stage, there's a number of the policies that are contained in our planning scheme that have been recommended to be removed or sunset. And so we're still working through that, and we're not yet at a stage where that's been finalised. Once that has been finalised, then we'll know what the policies are that we can do the planning scheme review on. The planning scheme review is on the policies. And so it's been quite frustrating to all that we need to actually understand what the policies are that come through that translation in order to know what it is that we're then reviewing. To do the review first could be a wasted time. So the pressure's on to finish the translation, and there's work happening on that. Once that's done, we'll know what it is that we have left to review.
Okay. All right. So in terms of the council action plan, have you got any other, did you want to speak to this at all, Councillor Shepherd, apart from asking that question? No. Okay. Anyone else?
Thank you for that reply. I think the community are interested in the review as well, so I think it's good for them to hear that explanation. Thank you.
Thanks for that. All right. Anyone else wish to speak to this motion? Councillor Goldsworthy, you don't want to sum up? Okay. All right. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you, councillors. So there's no notices of motion tonight. The Mayor's diary is listed for June. Anyone got any questions on that? Good. Decisions register is there for information. There is any general...
Sorry, Mayor, just with questions in relation to your diary, I know on the 22nd, the NBN briefing, rural northeast mayors and CEOs. Is there anything they could share out of that?
Yes, I'm happy to share what came out of that. So we were informed that there is a new entity called NBN Local, and that entity is looking at, now that the NBN has been rolled out apparently successfully right across the nation, that there may be a wish to improve some services, and if that's the case, then they're looking at partnering with local government to help them do that, and that in fact may involve some financial input. Many of us were very concerned about this because it is not the role of local government to provide infrastructure for telecommunications. That seems to be creeping in. We've already had to at times contribute to mobile phone towers being put up, which again, it has never been the remit of local government. So it seems like this is a bit of a cost shift being snuck in under the guise of partnering to improve services. There are many in our community who have a very low level and a very unsatisfactory level of NBN and mobile phone coverage, and so it's pretty concerning to hear that the government that this was being touted as something to do now that we've got successful NBN coverage to a level that we would all want. It's really do we want to improve it further? Our position is that the current level is absolutely substandard, and in many cases is just not adequate at all. So the meeting that was expressed by many mayors and CEOs from across our region.
Thank you for that update. I'd have to reiterate that. I think our Zoom meetings over the time has shown that our NBN is totally substandard.
Yes, and many of us, you can see the nodding heads. I think during COVID, where we've been so reliant on the internet just to function and to keep our business going, it's very concerning to hear that the position of the government is that the NBN rollout is completed and is to the standard that they apparently think is acceptable. And our message is pretty clear that it's not acceptable, and we'll continue to advocate on that. without council expecting ratepayers to foot the bill when they already pay taxes to the feds to get this happening. So, yeah, we're not at all interested in financially contributing to improving NBN and mobile phone coverage. Okay, thank you for that question. Anything else? All right. So is there any general business tonight? Yes, CEO.
Sorry, Madam Mayor, I noticed Councillor Shepherd had a hand up too. I wouldn't mind going last then.
Yes, sorry, Councillor Shepherd, I didn't see your hand.
I just had a community member today ask me about the waiting for Indigo Shire residents, especially, to get tested for COVID. And was there any opportunity for there to be a testing centre in Indigo Shire? Now, I know we discussed that at briefing, but I thought it would be worth hearing that answer for if those community members are listening.
Thanks, Councillor. CEO, do you want to respond to that?
Yes, there was. In the last 4 weeks, there was one time when the Beechworth Health, Mark Ashcroft and his team, with a bit of support from ourselves, did set up a testing station which opened for a day. It did get a few there, but probably not as many as they'd hoped. And I think operationally, decisions have been made to keep those resources back at the main hubs, the Wangaratta and the Wodonga hubs. They feel like they can be more efficient there and get more testing done that way than to try and set up satellite testing stations. Now, having said that, that doesn't preclude the local health agencies from looking to set up their own, and I know a little bit that's going on, and there may well be some further testing stations set up locally, depending on the local health providers, and we'll help support them if and when that happens.
Thanks, Councillor. And just in line with that, we're very aware that people are having real trouble accessing testing, and we are advocating to relevant state MPs to say that, you know, this is causing a real concern in our area, given that we're seeing the highest number of COVID cases that we've had so far since the outbreak. So certainly continuing to advocate on that front and hoping that people won't be getting turned away from testing centres the way we're seeing at the moment. Anyone else got any general business? Yes, Councillor Price.
Can I just ask either yourself or the CEO to be more specific about what that advocacy is? Because I think the community is just hearing day after day that testing sites are booked out within minutes or up to an hour of being open. What does that advocacy look like? Because I think we're sort of a week into those testing delays, and it'd be interesting to hear.
Yeah, so obviously the health services themselves are letting the department know that there's a problem, and I know the local Department of Health is also reporting back to the government that they can't manage the demand. Certainly I've spoken to both federal and state MPs about this just in the last 24 hours to say, you know, we're really concerned here. We're seeing an outbreak. We're seeing the combined numbers between Albury and Wodonga, which of course at the moment are reported separately as New South Wales and Victoria, but if you put them together, we're seeing an average of between 70 and 80 cases a day in this region, which is the highest we've ever seen. Many people are being contacted to say that they need to be tested, and those people are unable to be tested. So I've spoken to our upper house MP here and to our federal MP, notified her to say this situation is really very, very concerning, and I'm waiting to hear back. What I'm hearing is they're aware of it and they're trying to get adequate resourcing. The reason things are as they are is that after 2 years almost of COVID, the personnel that run the testing centres across the state actually are tired. They're not able to maintain the pace that they were earlier on. We've lost some testers. It's very hard to get them in. They may need to recruit from outside the state. So I think it's not something we're going to easily resolve. But yes, certainly we're absolutely making sure that they understand how serious and how concerned people are. Okay, thanks, Councillor. Anyone else wish to raise any general business before I come to the CEO? Okay, Trevor, CEO, Areno.
Madam Mayor, can I answer the other half of that question from Councillor Price about advocacy that I've done as well? I do attend regional sort of operational meetings, and there was one in particular today where I raised similar concerns to the Mayor about, in our particular case, we're faced from a timing point of view with Melbourne opening up this week, this Friday at 6 p.m, and a sort of unofficial long weekend, the prospect of a lot of visitation here, but also the prospect of Albury-Wodonga escalating in case numbers and the prospects of people coming from Melbourne. And I know we're trying to manage, we're now in a phase where the pandemic's been managed through vaccines, not through lockdowns and shutdowns. So we're at that phase now. And I did express my concern that, because as we've been hearing, that here we are opening up now, and we're very happy for our businesses to get that visitation, but we're also recognising that Albury-Wodonga is facing a new, fresh and growing outbreak at the same time. So we expressed our concerns for the ability of the health department here to cope, not just with testing. We think the testing is probably understated because people probably aren't getting tested that it should be, but also whether our hospitals themselves have got enough beds to cope with cases, albeit perhaps they won't be as deadly as they were, but there'll still be cases. So I've expressed that to them today. They report back after each of their meetings to the COVID commander, Jerome Weimer. So they said they'd include those comments from us in that report to Melbourne and express our concerns. So all the different channels going back to say we've got our concerns, but I think we've got to recognise that from a state point of view, the government has promised easing restrictions when milestones were met, and those milestones have now been met. And so they're saying they're doing what they're saying they would do, and so the timing is not great for us.
No, it sure isn't.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. The other thing I want to raise, Madam Mayor, was I just want to thank the councillors and acknowledge there was a lot of positive comments today about from yourselves about the efforts of staff and so on during a difficult period. And certainly I think there has been a lot of good achievements that I think that staff really do need to be thankful. But I also want to acknowledge too that councillors themselves have also done a fantastic job in this difficult period, no less than anybody else. So all councillors, in each of your own ways, you also are affected by the COVID pandemic. You're all affected by the shutdowns. There's kids homeschooling, all that sort of stuff's applying to everybody, just like anybody else, and a whole range of things. And in some ways, staff have a little bit easier because when the heat's really on, at least we're doing the operational things and we kind of can get on with the job. But I guess from a councillor point of view, you can't get your hands in and make things happen, touch them, so like the way staff can. So it's probably a little more frustrating for yourself, during fires and during a pandemic where your role is more governance and you've got the weight of expectation from the community, but it's hard for you to get in and touch things and do things. So that's quite frustrating. But but your role is quite difficult in that regard. And so I lost my train of thought there, but look, you've done a great job in the circumstances. Oh, that's what I was going to go. During the last 12 months, there's been an election as well. And so we've got a new council, so 2 new members, and virtually in the whole last year, you've barely met each other face to face. So you've conducted a council as individuals via these little 2.5 little inch squares we see on the screen. So for you to sort of gel as a team has been quite challenging, and I think you've done it quite well. So the staff at least had some opportunity to still meet face to face, and you've had bare opportunity to do that in the last 12 months. So your role is very different, but very challenging just as well. So you should be congratulated for your efforts over the last year as well.
Thank you, Trevor. Very much appreciate hearing that, and I would thank my fellow councillors for the great effort that I know everyone makes and really does put the needs of the community first and foremost in what we're doing. For all of our different views on how we do that, that's fine. I think as a council team, the 7 of us have fortunately been able to work really constructively, given how difficult it is for us to even get together for a coffee. It's just been so hard. So thanks everybody for the great effort, and thank you for your acknowledgement, Trevor. Okay, so that's it for the open part of this meeting, the public part. We do have some confidential business to move into. So for those of you that don't want to sit around and wait until we come back to close the meeting, we're going into confidential to appoint a new member for the Community Grants and Awards Committee, the Community Access Committee, and the Audit and Risk Committee. So they're the three pieces of business we have to do in confidential. So firstly, I need someone to move the recommendation that council meeting be closed to the public in accordance with section 66 of the Local Government Act. Councillor Price, seconder. Councillor Gaffney, all those in favour? Carried. So we'll go into confidential, and if anyone's still watching this meeting, thank you for your attendance. right, so we're back in the meeting, out of confidential. Is there anything anyone wants to add before we close the meeting? All right, thank you all for your attendance, and I will bring this meeting to a close. The next meeting is a statutory meeting on, I've got the date, November, yes, I have.
23.
November at 6:30 p.m. and we are thinking that it will be in person. So yay for that. Let's
Very good chance.
Never willing to bet on that now. Okay, thanks everyone.